Hola, queens and subjects and lovers of such. Welcome to Latina Stream Queens, a new channel on YouTube. My name is Marga, aka La Highness, and I have been curating this channel for 3 months now. If you haven't subscribed yet, ¿por qué? Please give that subscribe button a puñetazo right now. And if you enjoy the video you're about to see, give it a thumbs up, won't you? Today, we're going to talk to Christy Rodriguez de Conte, based in Florida, a director, a dramaturg, an actor, a producer, a mover and shaker, and an educator. Let's do it. Ahora. Christy Rodriguez de Conte. Welcome to Latina Stream Queens. Thank you for making time in your day. I don't know how you do all the things that you do.
I have no idea either. And sometimes it's a lot of not doing anything and just watching a lot of TV. So, you know.
There, we have a lot in common already. I'd love to find out, what your childhood was like and where you first discovered your mission in life.
So I'm from Miami originally, Cuban. My family immigrated here in I would say late 50s, 60s-ish, So I grew up in 80s Miami, which was a fun place to be, honestly, growing up. And I admittedly was rather privileged in my upbringing, Catholic schoolgirl my whole life, 12 years. But I was really lucky to travel a lot. And so I just kind of was able to go see things. And so I saw theater. I was able to just go see art galleries, as a young kid, so that was helpful. But really my grandmother, my great-grandmother actually, she was an actress in Miami, but she started super late in her career, in her life, 60s or so, and I would go see her on stage, and honestly, my grandmother and I we don't have the best relationship, so it wasn't that I was in awe of her, but it was more I was in awe of how she would transform from this kind of ratchety old woman that lived with me to this with the big wig, y siempre tenía, right, los ojos, and everything all done up. And
I
stuff.
love
and
it. I loved
it. I loved watching her, and she was on this show called Chariting back in the 80s. Shut up! Someone has heard of it? Oh my God!
Oh yeah, I'm old, but Charitin was she was a little bit like Charo. She was blonde and.
God, I still remember the jingle would go, Cindy loves you, with a huge thick accent, right? And I remember sitting in the Fountain Blue in Miami watching her with all the cameras and going yeah, I could do this. I could do this shit. So I went to college. I got a BA in theater. I moved back to South Florida, and I waited a lot of tables and tended a lot of bar, did a few web series.
What were you like as a waitress?
I was a big hair flipper. I had really long hair, and it was either I was super butched out with my baseball cap and black tank and cargos and chanks, and it was I gotta open the bar.
That's such a Florida look. That's such a Florida dyke look. Yes, the long-haired butch.
Totally. Yeah, right. And so then it was either that or then all my customers would say, oh, it must be payday or it must be rent is due next week, right? And I'd come in bustier, totally decked out. I'm fuck yeah, right? And they would just flip the hair. So that was my look for bartending.
This would be a good time to give that subscribe button a puñetazo and give this video a thumbs up.
I've been writing since I was a kid. I remember with my best friend and my neighbor, just writing the worst movies ever, but we were 7 or 8 and just writing movies thinking, oh, Spielberg is gonna love this, And
and you got your PhD, so you're a doctor.
Well, yeah, I am at that. I still can't believe it. 8 years of it. It's 10 years of graduate school. So that's after doing some work and stuff, I realized I think I'm going to go back and get my graduate degree. And I kind of wanted to see what a big city, although Miami's a big city, but a big northern city was like. And it was New York, Boston, New York, Boston. I ended up in Boston, which I loved because I got my master's there. And then I went all the way to Tallahassee. Woo, totally different from Boston, tiny little teeny town.
What brought you to Tallahassee?
So I Googled lesbian theater Southeast, and I started to get these lists of this theater, the Mickey Faust Club, which is run by two lesbians, a couple, that's been around for like 30 years. And I kept going, there must be something wrong with that. Tallahassee, no way. Let me just go look in Miami, and it would be like nothing. Oh, let me go look in Orlando, nothing. And sure enough, it kept popping up, Tallahassee, Tallahassee. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there's some like lesbian theater community in Tallahassee I don't know about. And sure enough, there is.
Were these Latinas?
No, I would say that my Latinidad is something that comes in when I have to push it in, right, to really get it seen. Because especially in academia, when you're the only Latina in the room, you learn to just almost whitewash yourself. I hate to admit it, right? But you go, I could write about being queer, or I could write about being a Latina. And then you're like, oh, they want to hear about me being queer. Sure, yeah, cool. Oh, I have to purposefully write something that's Latina.
So the Mickey Faust Club, this is, so I guess it's after the Mickey Mouse Club. Was it sort of a play on that?
Yeah, it's a play on Faust, right? And on Goethe's Faust, and then on Mickey Faust, or Mickey Mouse, excuse me. And it's a character that Terry Galloway, who is a performance artist, lesbian performance artist, she kind of created as like the forgotten cousin or brother or something of Mickey Mouse. And so we do a lot of like political queer comedy skit, kind of SNL style skits, and do 3 cabarets a year, and all original works that we write as a writing team together. But it's all volunteer based as far as your actors and writers and everything goes. And they're people who, right, from the community of Tallahassee, and they've been around for a long time working together.
That's exciting to hear about, that there is this this enclave, this pocket in Tallahassee. That's good.
It is, yeah, right. A little shout out to the 850.
Yeah.
I'm like so musical theater, like I am just in general, like, right. That's what I like clean my house to, right? Which that's when you really know what kind of music people listen to. What do you clean your house to? Okay, 90s hip hop, okay. Right? So it's like everything that I do, I'm like, I could turn it into a musical though, just saying. I just recently started working with somebody for this new project, Shiro, which is a lesbian super Shiro play, where I kind of want to take like all those 90s, like angry pixie girl kind of.
Yes.
Lilith Fair meets, I don't know what, right? Like, I'm totally still working on this one. The one that I'm currently trying to get, that I'm taking actually to a theater conference in like a few weeks in Ohio. Tu te imaginas me in Ohio? But that one is called Butch, Pregnant, and Pissed on Myself. And that's a one-woman show. And that one I'm trying to get up actually going like now. That's the one I'm working on.
Is this a autobiographical piece?
I have, yes, fairly, right? Always. All my shows tend to be, but I have a 3-year-old son, yes. He is, I'm like, I don't even think I have pictures, although we don't put them on social, so.
That's a lot of energy, 3-year-old.
Girl. If I turned this, you would just see like all the toys just like littered around me.
That's just your toys. Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
Right, exactly. Ayo. Yeah, he is a lot of energy, but it also has helped have him around while we've been on lockdown for the last however, forever it feels like, right? Because it's a lot to deal with, but it's also like a moment to just go like, look at him, bro. He's not even phased. He's like loving life. And he's just so happy that we're all together. And you're like, all right, okay. I can breathe for a second and chill with you, So anyways, but as far as is it autobiographical, I think that being a butch woman and then being pregnant is just weird. It was weird and awesome, like as far as the awesomeness of like, oh, I was pregnant, yeah, whatever. But then it's like, I'm this butch woman in my overalls, right, trying to walk around with my super femme wife, as if we don't already get looks in Tallahassee, Florida. You definitely get looks. But then you get the people who are like, I don't really like agree with your life and like because of God and everything, but you're doing God's work now, and you're like, oh, now I'm okay. You would have fucking lit me on fire like if I wasn't pregnant, but because I'm doing God's work and bringing a baby, and now my butchness doesn't offend you. Good to know.
How did you get to be the pregnant one?
Oh, because my wife said, no way.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, in all fairness, like I think that's part of that misconception is that butch women don't want to get pregnant, right? And like I've always wanted to be the one to carry.
Back in the day, it was the butch who got pregnant in the couples. Like, back in like Stonewall
now I gotta
time.
look that up.
Yeah, and I don't remember who told me this folklore, but I ran with it, and yeah, because it was so painful. So you're not gonna let your lady suffer, and so you're gonna have the baby. Yeah,
hilarious.
Do you work with a director on your solo play?
So I'm taking it now to a conference, and there'll be a director, and I want to say a stage manager or like someone else that's helping to kind of put it together. And then when I come down here, back to Tallahassee, I don't have anyone in mind. I have a few people though that so one thing that I've learned from working at this theater that we were just talking about is the idea of like a collective work and not necessarily going to like one person and saying, okay, direct me, but instead getting a room of your friends that you trust together that are theater makers and artists, right?
Yeah.
And you say, sit, watch me. And you do it. And then they go, you have a stage reading essentially, but not this like overproduced stage reading. It's just like the guy that's sitting at smoking the cigarette in the back, like, great job, I love it. Like just super informal. And then you get the feedback. And then eventually they're kind of directing you.
People have asked me, because I teach solo performance, and they ask me, oh, should I get a director? And it's like, do you have peers? Do you have other people who do what you do? Then just make a big lunch and have them over, and they all sit down, and you start reading. And you get so much more from that than like creating this marriage with someone you've never met.
And I think that that's something that the queer community has done. Now I'm getting my little theater history hat on here, but right, like that La Mama, right? Like all those theater companies that like, that's what they did. Like you came in and you just worked it as a collective.
Through the lockdown, through quarantine, shelter in place, what have you, I discovered live streaming my work, and the camera there's no better director than the camera when you play it back. What did you do during the pandemic? Were you still creating and presenting your work?
So I think we all kind of did that, right? This crossover from theater to film. It's like that's what we all had to do. So we started doing, as far as I'm saying the Mickey Faust Club was doing all their cabarets online. So then I bought myself a camera and started writing and directing for the camera instead, right? Like, cause you even have to write it differently. And so the skits that I would write would be for the camera. Essentially we had to kind of change, or not change, but just like adjust our style, our point of view, because as you're saying, the camera becomes the director and it gives it right back to you. So you have to, there was this bridge that we had to do and that I had to do personally in my writing especially. And then the other thing I did was just like sit and write. I think a lot of us just sat and write, like just write to heal ourselves.
What are your influences when you are writing?
I wish that I had a better answer, like a more deep answer for this. But I go like straight back to my comfort 90s TV girl watching. And so it's like Dawson's Creek, Gilmore Girls, Charmed, Buffy. And I wish I could be like, well, I turned to Nietzsche to like, no. Or like bell hooks or something. Like, no, I go to my comfort TV that honestly, what it has, I've realized, is that it has this cadence of the way and the speed of how they talk
Yeah.
And this kind of like 90s, I don't even know, like grunge humor. Is that even a word? I don't even know if I'm making this
It
shit
is
up, but, like,
now.
it is
Copyright. Trademark.
copyrighted. That's it. But right, so like, and it's comforting. It's familiar. So it's just like, it's almost like playing music in the background, and then I can start to hear my own voices without judgment, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll pause it to like write it.
So that's kind of the rhythm that you use in your pieces. That sounds great.
There's such a high level of camp in some of these shows that we're talking about, like Buffy, for example. Like, come on, you can't watch that show and be like taking anything that you're writing seriously, and that's kind of the point, right? Like in Shiro, the main villain is called Villanova, and she like looks like a big vulva, and she has a sidekick puppy named Pussy, right? Like, I can't be taking that shit too seriously. I got to be writing with some,
Absolutely. Is there any advice you would give to future Christy Rodriguez de Contes out there?
Forgive yourself. First of all, every move is not the wrong move. Maybe it's the right move. Just saying, right? We tend to get so hard on ourselves as artists. So I think one is like, forgive yourself. And the other is specifically targeted to young Latina women, which is produce your own stuff. Write your stuff, produce your own stuff, fund your own stuff. Don't wait for someone to give you the opportunity, or you'll be waiting forever. Right? You're doing it. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Christy, thank you so much for being our Latina Stream Queen. I'm very excited that you are in this world, and it gives me
I needed that today. Thanks.
motivation. Woohoo!
Did you like the interview?
I liked the interview.